Okay, you're now live.
Super, thank you very much. Welcome to this virtual Cabinet panel on the environment meeting that is being conducted with members and officers at various locations, communicating via audio, video and online. There is also the opportunity for the public and press to listen to and view proceedings. We also have contributors from various organisations with us here tonight to provide feedback. Before the meeting starts, I would like to invite the committee member and scrutiny officer to take a roll call to confirm that the required members, officers and participants can be heard.
Thank you, Chair. So when your name is called, please indicate your attendance to confirm that you can hear us and that we can hear you. So starting with members, got Councillor Emma Fernandez.
I can hear you loud and clear. Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you very much. Councillor Joe Graziano.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. Councillor Caroline McDonald.
Present.
Thank you very much. Councillor Lisa Nash. She's not with us right now. And Councillor Claire Strong.
Yes, good evening, everybody.
Thank you. And then we also have Councillor Daniel Allen in attendance.
Hello.
Thank you very much. So, officers, we have Ellie Hollingsworth.
Hello, I'm here.
Thank you. Amber Smith-Howell.
I am here.
Thank you. Daisy Harris.
Yes, here.
Thank you. Kate Yanachu. Sorry if I've mispronounced that.
That's okay. Yes, here.
Thank you. And Louise Overington.
Yep, here as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next, we have speakers. So we have Victoria Cooper.
Yes, I'm here. Hello.
Hello. Thank you. Luke Ford.
Yes, I'm here.
Thank you. And Duncan Jones.
Good evening.
Good evening. Thank you. And last of all, we have members of the public. So we have Jilly Chegwin.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Diane Ketcher.
Yes, I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other members, officers or public in attendance that I haven't called out? Not seeing any indications, so I'll now hand back to the chair.
Super duper. Moving swiftly on. Apologies for absence. I have received apologies from Councillor Dominic Griffiths, and I also understand that Councillor Graziano may have to chip off before 8 p.m. Joe, please let me know if that's wrong when the time comes. Minutes from the 11th February to 2026, I propose that we take as read and approve as a true record the minutes of the meeting of the panel held on the 11th of February. Can I have a seconder, please? I think Councillor Fernandez is waving at me. Yeah, there we go. Look at that. I can hear the joy through the screen. Super, thank you. So, Chair's announcements. In accordance with Council policy, this meeting is recorded. The recordings will be available on both the Council's YouTube page as well as the Council's ModGov site. Members are reminded to make declarations of interest before an item. The detailed reminder about this and speaking rights are set out under Chair's announcements on the agenda. Members are reminded that this Council has declared both a climate emergency and an ecological emergency, and officers and members should have that in mind as we carry out our various roles and tasks for the benefit of our district. More details are included on the agenda front sheet. The theme for this Cabinet panel meeting is waste and recycling, my favourite, and we are joined by officers from the waste team, speakers from Veolia, Timberback Pierce and Biogen to speak on areas around this theme. If members or members of the public wish to ask questions, they should do so at the conclusion of each presentation by using the raise hand function, and I, the chair, will notify you when it's your turn to speak. I have agreed to change the order of the agenda since publication, and agenda item 6, presentations, will now be taking place before agenda item 5. No notification of other business has been brought to my attention, so if we move swiftly on to item 6 for presentations, and we're going straight into food waste recycling, and that is Luke Ford from Biogen to present.
Super. So thank you very much for having me, everybody. So yeah, so I'm going to give a little bit of an introduction to the company that I work for, Biogen, and how we recycle North Hertfordshire's food waste. So yeah, so I'm commercial director for Biogen. Yeah, I heard that we've got somebody that's Veolia. I used to be head of food waste at Veolia. I think I've been in recycling around about 20 years now, which is quite a long time. So yeah, so hopefully I'll be able to give a little bit of insight about anaerobic digestion, what we do with Hertfordshire's food waste, how we try and provide a little bit of social value as well. Generally, what we do outside of local authorities, and then also what the opportunities are for anaerobic digestion as a sort of key tool for decarbonisation and also energy security. So yes, can we move on to the next slide, please? Yeah, so who are Biogen? So this slide, we've come from it from a food waste perspective. We have 12 food waste plants operating across the United Kingdom. We also actually have 7 agricultural plants as well. So basically, what we do is we take organic material, we pre-process it, we treat it in the absence of oxygen. And then we take that biogas and we do something brilliant with it. We can inject it into the grid, or in the case of what we do with North Hertfordshire's food waste, is we turn it into renewable electricity. So food waste into through anaerobic digestion it is the thing that we need to do. You can see that sort of figure there. For every ton of food waste that we treat, the 691 kilograms of carbon that we're offsetting by doing that. That's basically because methane is harmful, and it's methane, is either left to sort of enter the atmosphere, as it's broken down in landfills or other treatment methodologies that don't capture the carbon. That's basically the risk, is that the methane is extremely harmful. So we have 12 food waste plants across the United Kingdom, and we also have 12 transfer stations where we bulk up food waste and we take it into those food waste plants. We've got 2 facilities specifically in Hertfordshire, with Baldock being the site that treats North Hertfordshire's food waste. And yeah, obviously treating over 500,000 tons of organic waste in the UK, that makes us, I'd say, the biggest operator from a food waste perspective. We also employ 180 people across the country as well. So yeah, this is again specifically for North Hertfordshire's food waste, as I sort of alluded to there. The food waste is collected from households. It's delivered directly into us by your vehicles, and then from the reception hall we pick up the food waste. We drop it into the hoppers. We've got depackaging machines that basically take all the bags off. Food waste is then macerated. It's whisked up. I hear the term soup. It's one of them things that gets bandied around a lot in terms of what we turn the food waste into. And then basically, the food waste is then fed into digesters. As I said previously, it's stored in the absence of oxygen. And basically, we then get that gas, which is in the gas holder, as you see there. So for North Hertfordshire's food waste, we put that through an efficient combined heat and power plant, and then the resulting electricity is then fed to grid. What's left isn't wasted. We turn the food waste, after it's had all of the biogas extracted, is a really, really useful fertilizer, and that's taken to local farms, which displaces massively carbon intensive artificial fertilizer. It's a win-win. I get asked this question a lot. 1 ton of household food waste recycles about 450 kilowatt hours of renewable electricity and produces 900 kilograms of fertilizer. So quite an efficient process. You get a lot of electricity from the food waste. So yes, outside of the local authorities, we work with 40. Well, I think since Simply Recycling, it's going to be more than 40 local authorities. But we also work with a lot of blue chip clients as well, commercial waste management companies. We work with all the big players there. We have contracts for the food waste out of 3 of the large national retailers. We take food waste from Asda, Aldi, and then also Ocado as well. Ocado specifically, we take the food waste from their plant at Atherstone and we take it into our plant at Atherstone. and then we actually send them the electricity back to their site, which powers their distribution centre. It's a really nice circular loop. But yeah, we work with a range of customers as well. We deal with a lot of national manufacturers, and then we also deal with total waste management providers. Since food waste recycling is now mandatory across households and businesses, we work across a whole scope of sectors. So yeah, so local authorities, how we help again, working with 40 local authorities, we're really well experienced in doing this. We've actually built anaerobic digestion plants as well for local authorities. We have 3 plants in Wales, which were PFI style contracts. We have another plant in Edinburgh that was built on a similar basis as well. So we've been working with local authorities for a very long period of time. Off the top of my head, I think 2012, possibly 2013, when we first started helping local authorities with rollouts, well versed with the correct messaging, how we help, in terms of like dissuading people from contaminating loads, how to encourage segregation and things like that. What local authorities want to see in terms of waste reporting as well, how we report on carbon savings and things like that. And yeah, we sort of pride ourselves as well on how quickly we can get the local authorities in and out of our sites, how we can deliver good service generally. And having that national network is kind of what puts us in so many territories and enables us to work with so many local authorities. We like to think we are where you are. So yeah, so we are contracted to accept. I think that sounds. Yeah, that's how I put it. We're contracted with Hertfordshire to take 15,000 tonnes of food waste per annum, basically powering 2,500 local homes. As I've sort of said before, we're reducing carbon emissions, and then we try and do a little bit of social value as well. I believe that Darren, our local authority manager, has been to visit some local schools, and again, we work closely with the council and do everything that we can to help increase recycling rates. This is a little bit in terms of some of the things that biogas. Why is biogas so important? And I think it's not massively understood just how big this sector has to get. So renewables obviously is on the agenda massively, but most renewables, we can't create gas from other forms of renewables. So basically why biogas is so important is that when we put gas into the gas grid, it's basically durable. If you think about the electricity grid, basically you have peak times when there's peak demand, and it's very difficult to get electricity throughout the grid. With gas is durable. It can be moved and it can be used and burned to create energy at different times. That's why greening up the gas grid is so important at times of energy security, or energy insecurity, as I should say. Having more gas in the gas grid will be pertinent, and having a homegrown source of gas as well, not being reliant on gas coming through the Strait of Hormuz, as everyone's obviously sort of highlighting recently, is pertinent. So obviously DESNZ have spoken about getting us up to 50 terawatt hours from our current capacity of like 6 terawatt hours. In order to do that, biomethane has to get really big. So we're currently injecting gas into the grid on 3 of our sites. Work's underway on a 4th site. And we've got planning permission in place to do this on a 5th site as well. So, we're trying to inject as much as what we possibly can. It's a really efficient use for the gas. And again, it will contribute to energy security and help us green up the gas grid as well, displacing LNG. It's a win-win all round. Biogas is that good, though. I think there is a lot more to it than just injecting into the grid. Sustainable aviation fuel. There is a mandate basically that we need to start using more and more sustainable aviation fuel, and biogas really does fit the bill as well. So again, it's a little bit of a more complicated process than what we've alluded to before. It's a 2-step chemical cracking process, But basically, there are plans in place at the moment for UK plants to be able to turn biogas into sustainable aviation fuel. And because of the sustainable aviation fuel mandate, requiring jet fuel supply, more and more of it to come from renewable sources, this is something that basically we have to do. A similar initiative as well is road traffic fuel. You'll see a lot of vehicles on the road, powered by gas. That we're trying to make as much of that biogas as possible. And again, the government's supporting this through for the road traffic fuel certificate scheme as well. Lastly, this is a new thing, but data centers. So I think there's, a lot of people know that we're going to need a lot more electricity to power data centers. It's 26.4 terawatt hours is the projection. That's between 8 and 10% of the entire capacity of the electricity grid. Yeah, 5-fold increase on current. The most efficient way of doing this is through renewable electricity. But if you imagine solar and if you imagine wind, it's not a steady supply, and those data centers need a steady supply, which is why biogas combined heat and power plants like the one that we spoke about in Hertfordshire, could offer a really, really useful way of doing that on an integrated basis. So, I think it could well be that we have integrated data centers on biogas plants in the future as a way of decarbonising and supplying a steady base load of electricity to data centres, which is really, really exciting. And also, as I said, it highlights the future and the potential that the biogas sector has. Yeah, so key takeaways, obviously a little bit of shameless self-promotion in terms of some of the great things that I feel that Biogen does. Leader in food waste recycling, national coverage, working across food waste and agri, and we're working with a lot of local authorities and over 250 clients nationwide as well. So feel free to get in touch if anyone has any questions. I'll try my best to come back to anybody. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Luke. I just asked that we come, there we go, full screen with everybody on it. Does anybody have any questions about Luke's presentation or Biogen? Not seeing anything just yet, but the pictures of that site, they do not do that place justice. I've been around that site twice. One of my very memorable visits was rocking up when they just had a trade waste level amount of onions delivered, and that thing was like a punch in the face when you walked around the corner. It really was. I've not smelled anything like it in my life. Those silos are enormous. They tower over you, and knowing that sometimes they are very full is slightly unnerving. It's a very, very cool site to be at.
Cool. Yeah. Sorry, I asked if you cried with the delivery of onions.
It was like, when you accidentally eat English mustard, not realizing it's English mustard. It was like that, and it made my eyes water. It was a bit of a woof moment, but it was fine. It was all good. It was a fascinating visit. Councillor Strong, your hand is up.
Yeah, a couple of things. Firstly, do you have open days there when sort of members of the public are allowed to come around and have a look at the facility? That's the first question.
So, not as such. Obviously, it is an operational site. However, we do facilitate visits. I think and it's not necessarily restricted to the council or members or councillors. I think I'll be honest. I think we're taking an old boys club around in a few weeks upon request. So we are reasonably open on that sort of thing. I mean, it's not completely open all the time. These things have to be organised. We don't have an open day as such. If you can imagine traffic, having people on site as well. I think just it's a controlled site. So obviously things like hydrogen sulfide monitoring and things like that. Like we can't have a huge amount of visitors on site in one place because we all need to be everyone would need to be accommodated around the site. But generally we try and be as helpful as we can in terms of making sure that local interest when it's peaked that we do respond, and we do try and get people on site if they want to come and see what we do.
Next question was you said at the site it's just food waste. Do you not take any garden waste now at all? Because or has it always been just food waste that you deal with on the site there?
Yeah, so no, it's just it is just food waste. I get asked this question a reasonable amount about garden waste. So yeah, mixed food and green waste has to go to in-vessel composting. We have agricultural plants that we do feed crop grass to, and we have trialed feeding grass from like it has come from local authorities when they're like mowing lawns and things like that. That is something that we've tried, but obviously from a resident perspective, when people have the green waste bins, they're putting twigs and non-biodegradable things that if they went into our digester, it just wouldn't work. It would, it wouldn't work on the front end. It would sink to the bottom. So yeah, sites like Bygrave are food waste only, I'm afraid.
Okay, and the other thing is, I can't help but notice sometimes when I'm on the A505 coming past, it can be some days decidedly whiffy.
Is this Bygrave? Because I'm obviously you can tell by my accent. I'm not from I'm not from nearby.
No, but there's the Biogen. It's just outside Baldock.
Oh, Baldock, yeah. So
Baldock site. So when you're driving along the dual carriageway there, some days you can't get nothing. There's nothing coming off it. But other days it's quite noticeable that you've passed the Biogen and you've got people in cars saying, "What was that?"
Yeah. What I would say is that we do have really robust odor suppression on the sites. So they've got really like the best sort of carbon filters that we could possibly can on the site to abate as much odor as we possibly can from the process. Yeah. So if you think about the food waste going in, it's getting macerated, all the dust is attracted. That all goes through a carbon filter. My guess is why you can smell that is when it'll be from spreading the digester, I would imagine. So the fertilizer, which if you can imagine when the farmer spreads things on the fields, you probably have a similar sort of feeling. I would say it doesn't smell as bad as that, but I would imagine it's probably the digester rather than the actual process itself, I would imagine.
Okay, thank you.
It's certainly a funky smell, certainly wakes you up when you're driving past it.
I'm not the only one then.
It's just that's the marker, isn't it? It's, we're halfway there. Councillor Allen.
I was lucky enough to visit this playing chauffeur, and it's a wonderful site. You do learn a hell of a lot, and I am very excited by it. Yes, there's a bit of a smell, but in the grand scheme of things, I'd rather have a bit of a smell and know that everything's happening locally. So all the stuff that is the side, the creation is spread, did you say within a 10-mile radius?
For Baldock, it will be. Yeah, it'll be on the local. It's on the estate. Yeah, so it goes very, very, very local.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Hope if I'm not on mute. Wonderful. Thank you so much. Any further questions or comments from anybody? Marvellous. Right. Thank you so much, Luke. That was a fantastic presentation. I remember for a long time going past the Biogen site and was always excited about the possibility that we may be using the services at some point in the future. And now here we are. So absolutely thrilled with that. Thank you. I'm just going to, after time, move on to the next presentation, which is the new waste service provision. So I've got Kate and Louise from the North Herts Council Waste Team and Victoria Cooper from Veolia to present.
Lovely, thanks, Amy. Just wait for the slides. Will they go to full screen? Thank you. So good evening, my name is Kate. I'm the Communications Officer in the Shared Waste Team here at North Herts Council. I'm just going to give a quick overview to the impact of the waste collection service change that was rolled out in August 2025. So hopefully everyone here is aware of how the service has sort of shaped up, but just as a kind of a quick refresher. So weekly food waste collections were introduced in East Herts and continued for residents in North Herts as normal. A new blue lidded bin was delivered to North Herts residents for recycling cardboard and paper together, which replaced the old 55-litre paper boxes. which meant that the black lidded bins were now just for plastic, metal and glass, but with the addition of plastic bags and wrappings, which were now recyclable from home for all East and North Herts residents. So no more trips to the supermarkets to drop them off. And the purple lidded bin remained for non-recyclable items like nappies, tissues, paper towels, pet waste, things like that. And those streams were now to be collected every 3 weeks. And garden waste collections for those who subscribed remained every 2 weeks. So why we rolled out the change? So following a public consultation in 2022, we found that 84% of respondents agreed that the council should be doing more to make people recycle more and reduce waste. Nearly half of respondents' purple's bins for non-recyclable waste were either half full or a quarter full when it's time to be collected. So clearly that is not efficient or sustainable in any sense, to be sending trucks every other week to collect half-empty bins. New government legislation on the horizon meant we needed to collect and recycle cardboard and paper separately from plastic, metal and glass, which was to increase the quality of the recyclable materials, so avoiding spills of sort of food or liquid from cans and bottles and things onto card and paper. And we wanted to provide residents with enough physical capacity and opportunity to recycle just larger quantities, hence a bigger blue lidded bin, and more diverse materials as well, so the things like plastic bags and wrappings. And it was also really important that we provided residents with greater motivation to recycle more. So we completely accept that not everybody recognises the importance of recycling from a sustainability perspective, but by reducing the frequency of collections of non-recyclable waste in particular, we're really driving home that message that recycling is just non-negotiable for really managing your waste very well. So that's really prompted the behaviour change of our residents. So just looking ahead to the impact that that's had. So we've kind of got the data for North and East split out. So if we're looking at North Herts first, the bottom purple line, apologies if anybody is colourblind, the bottom purple line is the tonnages from 23-24, and over the year we're averaging around about 1,500 tonnes of non-recyclable waste every week. In 24-25, which is the top green line, you can see there was actually a significant increase. So clearly more and more waste was just slowly creeping into that purple lidded bin, the non-recyclable stuff. But now the middle red line is the path we're on for 25-26, and it's looking much more positive. It's really sort of dropping back down. January is a really good indicator of habits, obviously that post-Christmas kind of chucking out of literally everything. And in January 25, we collected 1,670 tonnes of non-recyclable waste. And January 26, just gone, we collected 1,306 tonnes. So that's a really good drop just in that sort of key post-Christmas period. Looking at East Herts, you'll note considerably higher tonnages in general, as food waste was not offered as a waste stream before the service change, but taking that food out of non-recyclable waste, they're on a much more similar path to North, which is fantastic. Across both districts, overall, the service change has delivered 37% drop in non-recyclable waste, which is a cut of just under 6,000 tonnes in the first 5 months since the service change, if we're comparing August to December for the previous year. So that is a huge amount saved from going into landfill and energy recovery. So looking at food waste, we've seen a steady rise in tonnages in North Herts since the summer. Again, that's the red line through the middle. It's just above last year's green line. Even though food waste has been collected in North Herts for some time, I really think that sort of the bin collections are changing campaign has sort of reinvigorated that, and residents are kind of keen to use their food waste bins again, which is fantastic. And it is something that we're really going to be continuing to raise awareness of and encouraging residents to take advantage of. Looking to East Herts, obviously no year-on-year comparison, but it's really great to see such strong engagement from residents, averaging around about 560 tonnes per month. As Luke said, you know, it's such an important resource, making sure that food waste is properly managed and getting the most from it. So looking at our mixed recycling, so this is our black lidded bins. So pre-service change cardboard was included in. So obviously we've taken that out, so hence the drop in tonnages, because that material's being counted elsewhere. But we can see that we're sort of, fairly sort of averaging out across both districts, which is great. And obviously, additionally, whilst we were able to roll out recycling for plastic bags and wrappings across both districts, it's a very lightweight material. So we've removed it from the general waste stream, which has given residents more physical capacity. But we perhaps don't see the impact of that in terms of the tonnages, just purely because it is so lightweight. So looking to paper and cardboard, this is where we can see the fantastic impact that providing residents with that additional capacity has really given. So yes, obviously the weight has dropped off in the mixed recycling, but we estimate there's an increase of around about 20% in the weight of cardboard and paper now being recycled across both districts by providing those larger bins. So we really feel that the service change, the combination of the larger bins, splitting things out, and moving to 3 weekly collections has really, encouraged residents to recycle as much as possible, which is great. So what's the feedback been like? Obviously, initially there was some confusion. It's not just a simple waste 1 week, recycling the next schedule. It does take a bit of getting used to. And, we do have sort of a vocal, let's say, minority on social media, sort of making their feelings heard. However, the initial challenges do seem to have been balanced out by residents recognising the positive impact of the changes. So people saying that they're actually recycling more, separating everything. Purple lidded bin is only half ever full. One respondent made a really valid point, a bit more effort on our part, but worthwhile for the outcome. So we know there's always going to be some friction with change, but it's really good to see that residents recognise that the end is justifying the means. And it's also positive to see that that sort of bin day confusion is being alleviated by the council app, which we rolled out at the start of November, which gives notifications for residents to know which bin to put out on which day. So we hope that we're moving forward in a really positive way. I'll hand over now to Vicky, who will share a little bit about the social value side of our contract.
Thanks, Kate. As Kate has just said, I'm going to talk about the social value progress that we've been making since we started the contract back in May last year. So for those of you that are not very familiar with social value, it's essentially where local authorities are required to consider how a particular contract could improve the economic, social, environmental well-being of the area. And that can be through aspects such as local hiring practices, sustainable local spend, community engagement initiatives, and then environmentally friendly policies and practice. To measure and record the social value that we do generate on the contract, we're using something called the National TOMS framework, and those indicators categorise the list of social value indicators by their theme, their outcome, and the measure. In terms of the commitments on the contract itself, there are a number of commitments that revolve around employment, local employment, sustainable employment, employment of individuals from more disadvantaged cohorts, for example, veterans, homeless, NEETs, etc. There is also some commitments around expert advice and the support that we can offer to businesses in the area. There is information in there around local procurement, local spend. There are obviously commitments that we have signed up to. In terms of our own staff, our own workforce, we offer wellbeing programs for our teams. We've got 220 employees on the contract, and we need to ensure that all of them are also receiving the wellbeing program, but also those opportunities for local employment themselves. We have equality, diversity and inclusion training. There are obviously some ethical procurement practices that we're putting in place. We've also made some commitments around some of our financial contributions that we can make to the local community. So we offer a sustainability fund that provides donations of either financial contribution or in-kind support for local community projects. I'll talk about that a little bit more in a minute. We obviously look at promoting travel to work schemes, carpooling for our staff, and we have a cycle to work scheme, etc. And then we focus on upskilling our existing staff, but also new staff that are coming in. So whether that's via apprenticeship programs or other skill opportunities. We have loaders working within the contract that have progressed and taken their HGV licence and are now progressing to become a driver. That type of upskilling really helps us in resourcing the contract effectively. And then we're looking at the reduction of on-site carbon emissions and eliminating single-use plastics from across our sites. In terms of measuring the social value, the contract actually has a dedicated eco lead who is responsible for recording all of the contract activities that relate to social value. We record that every month as we're going through. Things are internally verified, they'll be approved. Once those entries are approved, we can then log them onto the social value portal, which is what the authority will use for their reporting and benchmarking purposes. To date, we've generated £23,323 of social value. There's a further 28,000 plus waiting approval at the moment. It's probably important to note at this point that some of the entries relate to national TOMs that can only be reported once you've reached a 12-month point or a key milestone. And we're not yet at a year, although it feels like we've been working with the authority for a long time. We're not yet at our 12 months, so there are some things that are kind of pending approval at the moment that we know we'll be able to put through. In terms of the social value that we have delivered, we've obviously been working with a number of organisations around recruitment, those opportunities that I mentioned earlier, and we also work with Hertfordshire's Step to Skills team, identifying opportunities at Veolia that might work for some of their individuals that they're supporting into the workplace. We have, for 2025, supported 21 community groups and grassroots projects with financial grants totalling just over £15,000 through the Sustainability Fund. And we have very recently distributed orchards or strawberry plants to 16 local schools through the Veolia School Orchards project. We were able to support every single school that applied in 2025, which is great news. And I know there's some pictures there. We've been out delivering trees and planting in the local area. In terms of the decarbonisation, we've been working with some local community groups around reuse of materials and also diverting items from waste. So we joined local community group Fabric Folk, one of their fabric swap events. We have, in addition to that, created a forum for managing agents and landlords to look at improving the recycling opportunities for residents of communal properties and to promote better participation in the services. Communals are generally a challenge, I think, for most local authority areas in terms of participating in waste services and understanding how those services can be better tailored to their particular property. We've hosted a face-to-face event and we've also had an online forum, which will be something that we'll be continuing through this year. And then we're working with local partners or community organisations to deliver some of the social innovation that looks to safeguard the environment. So for Food Waste Action Week, we hosted a stand at a local supermarket to share information and promote the services themselves, talk a bit more about food waste recycling and the opportunities to ensure that everybody was aware that they've got their caddy, can they use it, do they know how to make sure that they're recycling their waste in an appropriate way. For Repair Week, we hosted a bike repair event with a local bicycle repair shop. And then we've been supplying equipment and volunteers for local litter picks. It's one of the pictures that's in the centre there at the bottom. And there's a lot more to come. These are some of the things that have been taking place recently that have yet to be logged because they haven't reached their milestone. But all of these things will be generating social value for the contract and therefore for the local authority. And a member of my team is obviously making sure that we're recording that as we go along. So as we reach the end of the first year, there'll be an annual report on social value where we'll be able to update the authority on what we've managed to achieve so far. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Are there any questions? I can see Diane's got her hand up.
Yes, hello. Thank you very much for both those presentations. I have two questions, one for Kate and one for Victoria. I'll come to Victoria's first, uppermost in my mind. Oh gosh, can you see me? I'm like a ghost.
Just about. You look like you're in a very dark cupboard, but I can just about make you out.
Oh, that's weird. Anyway, sorry about that. Right. In about 2017, I think it was, I started Plastic Free Letchworth. By 2019, we got our accreditation. Myself and another friend, and at the time we were working with Transition Town Letchworth. That is now folded as a group, an organisation. And during lockdown, all the good work that we'd done, especially with cafes and single-use plastics, seemed to go out the window because people were so frightened about touching things.
Yeah.
And it's at that point that I think the biodegradable plastics came on board. So it's created more of a problem, actually, than it solved, in my opinion, because Vegware is probably the most popular and well-known make of things like plastic cups. And the cafes use them. It doesn't only make cups, it makes other things as well.
Mm-hmm.
The problem with that, actually, this is probably more a Kate question. The problem with that is that they look exactly like ordinary plastic. And for the first couple of years, I'm tearing my hair out thinking, how do we solve this? I did quite a bit of communicating with Vegware. And they said, oh, well, we have special collection points, special manufacturing, well, sort of, I can't remember what the word is now, but disposal centres where we can recycle it. The nearest one here, I'm going back a couple of years now, is in Oxfordshire. The nearest collection point for like cafes and businesses to send their used cups to is in Stevenage. But the very fact that they're making takeaway stuff means the customer comes in, gets a coffee or drink or whatever, takes it away. Sometimes it ends up in a street waste bin, other times it ends up at home. Oh, this is plastic, put it in the grey bin. You know, it's not plastic. And I think we've recently been advised not to put biodegradable plastics in with your normal fossil fuel-based plastics. The trouble is you cannot tell them apart unless they've got a label on. Now, a lot of things I buy from the supermarkets, I try not to buy anything that's wrapped in plastic anyway, but sometimes you have to. And so I always read the back of the packet, and it often says, do not recycle at home, take it to a local supermarket. So for North Herts, I know that now that means I can put it in the grey bin. Am I right?
Yes.
Nodding, Kate. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So what about people who are not as careful as me and haven't got the background research information and they don't think of looking what it is. They just go on what it appears to be. And a lot of the soft plastics, single-use soft plastics, look exactly like, you know, the biodegradable ones look exactly like the non-biodegradable ones. How do we solve that problem? And how do we solve the problem of cafes and takeaway places, you know, dealing with single-use plastics which are not plastics? A bit complicated question.
It's a complicated issue, yes. I think I will sort of speak to the kind of the householder side of things, because I think the kind of the business is a bigger policy issue. It might be something that Councillor Allen has a kind of a take on, but I think from a householder point of view, we always say to our residents, you know, the soft plastics, the plastic bags and wrappings, it might have a label on that says, you know, recycle at a supermarket or do not recycle, but that's because the majority of local authorities are not collecting that from home. So we would say, you know, worry less about what is on the label for the plastic bags and wrappings. Look at the website, use the information that we provide on the website or on the app to then know, yes, that can go into my black lidded bin. As far as kind of vegware and you know, kind of compostable, in inverted commas, kind of food packaging. I'm sure this might be something that Duncan from Timber Pack Pierce has a kind of a take on as well. It is a tricky one, because unless you are fastidious about checking where that spoon has come from, what the packaging was, if you pick it up in a cafe, it's very difficult to know if it is sort of compostable plastic, or if it is fossil fuel plastic. So I think we would have to encourage residents to recycle based on what is in front of them, and unfortunately that will mean that there will be a kind of an element of contamination if that plastic fork that looks like a plastic fork actually turns out to not be plastic and is not something that is recyclable. Duncan, I don't know if you want to come in at this point, if you've got a kind of a take on it.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Ultimately, the fundamental issue is this: we use the term plastic, but it covers about 40 or 50 different polymers, each with their own market dynamics, each with their own economics, each with their own chemical and physical properties. But if you bear in mind, last time I looked, the average supermarket sold 40,000 different products. Yeah, there's no way to cover those all in a website, an app, or an information leaflet. So as Kate says, use the resources that the authority provides. In terms of its impact, we can never achieve at our recovery facility 100% purity. And we can't achieve 100% purity because of these things that look like plastic but turn out not to be plastic. But we sell it to people that do sort to that degree. But recycling, recovery is like any industrial process. It has a residual processing waste element to it. So when you get down to the end markets that will sort between the different polymers, there will be a small degree of residual processing waste that they generate through that process. And that's where these materials come out. In terms of policy, what we're looking for from the recovery side of the recycling side of the business is for EPR really to start having an impact now, where these products that claim to be X but are actually Y are subject to punitive fees and penalties on the basis that they cannot be sensibly or fairly recycled under the current framework, which is only just about 12 months old now. So we're moving into the second year of EPR, and where the fees that the producers have to pay to place this material onto the market will start to be modulated. That modulation will be based on how difficult your material is to recycle, and the end markets will be part of that consideration. If you've got a really difficult material, you'll receive a red rating. If you've got a material that's really easy to recycle, like glass, it will get a green rating. And the fees for the red materials will be used to subsidize the fees for the green materials. And therefore, through a policy mechanism, the government is looking to signpost producers to the need to improve the recyclability of what they produce, or face significant fees if they don't. And it's hoped that some of those well-meaning bioplastics, the people that produce them will look at that kind of long-term framework and decide to try different avenues.
Thank you. Can I just double check then that the question being contamination, to what extent does putting it in the wrong bin contaminate the whole load? Does it spoil it completely, or does it just get sorted?
Again, through you, Chair, it doesn't spoil the entire load, but it is an element of contamination. As you'll see in my presentation, across both North and East Herts, and generally across the Hertfordshire authorities as a whole, you're looking at an overall contamination rate of about 5%. As low as 2% in places like Hertsmere, slightly higher in places like Three Arrows, where it's 6 or 7%. But in terms of the county as a whole, 5%. If you go to North London, they're talking about contamination rate of 15 to 20. East London, 20 to 30. Cambridgeshire, a big hotbed of science and forward thinking, still 15 to 20%. So Hertfordshire's Waste Aware programme, which the chair knows I have some knowledge of, has for many, many years worked to drive down levels of contamination, both from a county-wide perspective and bespoke programs rolled out by individual authorities. And as the facility that takes most of that material, we have to measure that according to a standard set of guidance and frameworks. So all materials recovery facilities operate in the same way in terms of testing their material. And we genuinely come up with a 5% contamination rate. So whilst contamination is not good and it costs a lot of money, when you compare yourself to other parts of the country, contamination in Hertfordshire is generally low. So, I would say, if there's you've got a 50-50 decision, it feels like plastic, it looks like plastic, put it in, we can deal with it.
Thank you.
Marvellous, thank you so much. Any further questions or comments for the waste team, please? I see Councillor Strong engaging with her screen. I'll just sort of quickly say I was delighted to be invited to the Veolia Community Awards the other day. It was so wonderful to see the groups that have been supported through the grants from the from Veolia's community funding scheme and the work that they've been doing. It was really lovely having so many people be able to be involved, coming together as groups, having social opportunities, and the work that they produced and what they'd learned through it as well. And it certainly inspired me to do a little bit more when it comes to thinking about the environment and how we use our waste and what we can actually do with it. So, Councillor Strong, you appear to be unmuted. Do you have a question?
Well, it wasn't that. It's just, I mean, yes, it's good to see that having made the changes that we made to our waste contract and also introducing the 3 weekly collections and everything else. And again, I think we got through the teething problems of people getting the right bins out on the right day and not having missed bins. Although, again, I think something we need to look at probably exactly, if that rate of missed bin collections is going down. And also we had families who needed to get a larger purple bin because they couldn't cope on the 3 weekly cycle with the amount of rubbish that if you've got 3 young children in nappies, you haven't got a chance. But going forward from where we are now, what are going to be the next steps to try and push the recycling tonnages that we have further? And also because there's still, we still have a purple bin collection, and although residents are being very good about trying to do as much recycling, what more can we or should we be doing as authority to get those tonnages for recycling up?
I'm just going to quickly comment on one of the comments you made, then hand over to the officers. So with regards to the purple bins and those that are in need of a larger bin, you described a family with maybe 3 in nappies. They would qualify. All they'd have to do is apply.
Yeah, I know, and they have, and I know families that have done that. So yeah, I mean, I think those are some of the teething problems that when we were introduced, those are all sort of, I think, rolled and ironed out now.
Yeah, a lot of people. I don't think people were aware that that was an option because it had not occurred to them that they could have that. So making it clear that was available and having councillors get out there and make that be known to their residents as well was incredibly helpful. So yeah, I'm just going to pass over to Kate, who I think is going to be able to jump in here.
Yeah, thank you. So I think we really want to focus on food waste in particular because we're fairly kind of perhaps plateauing, I guess, on the food waste. That I think there is kind of more that can be done to help residents engage with that service. But part of my role is also about really sort of promoting reducing waste. So sort of thinking about ways that residents can on a very basic level, just thinking about reuse, taking your cup to the coffee shop rather than buying the vegware cup, as Diane mentioned. So really trying to encourage residents to reduce their waste rather than necessarily obviously continuing to recycle well, making sure that everything's going in the right place, but very much thinking about what could I do without? What could I reuse? What could I repurpose? Things like that to just try and sort of bring that residual waste down somewhat. But we would just be continuing to sort of push on the recycle right kind of message, making sure that everything is going in the right place. But the reuse and repurpose side is really important to help people to reduce the kind of contents of their purple bins essentially.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate. Any other questions or comments from anybody?
Well, the only other comment I would make about, food recycling is if you drive down the road on the day that it's collection day, there's a lot of houses that do not have a food waste caddy out. And it always crosses my mind, is that because they're doing their own sort of compostable with some of the food bits and waste that they have, or are doing that, or is it because they don't have an awful lot of food waste? I must admit, my food waste doesn't seem to be terribly full on a weekly basis. But it's just really understanding maybe why residents don't use that service every week.
No, that's understandable.
I can see you nodding.
Yeah. I think so. The push to with moving the purple bin to 3 weekly was a bit of a, as well as everything that's been described, it also is a great opportunity to try and push a bit of human behaviour and change. People don't necessarily want the food waste to be in their bin for 3 weeks because it gets kind of gross, especially in the summer. And some people struggle with change. They take a little while to process it and everything. Maybe we need to do a bit of a drive on ordering your food waste caddy. I know we had a bit of an issue with supply at the beginning of the contract because, there was because of the changes, it was an uptick in people going, oh, well, maybe I should have a food waste caddy instead, now in North Herts. And so, there were a lot of requests put in. You're right, a lot of people probably do use their compost bin. I have a compost bin. Speaking of vegware, bane of my life, ended up with one of those in my compost bin because it said compostable on it, and my son took it literally. They break down into just millions of tiny balls, and it's a nightmare, and it completely contaminated my compost bin, and the whole thing just had to be buried, really. There was only so much you could pick out. It was a real shame. So yeah, so there's that. But no, Kate, did you want to come in on anything regarding policy on driving up people using their food waste caddies, or have I covered it?
So the council county-wide, we're kind of currently undergoing a waste composition analysis, which will be looking at kind of what's going into the residual waste essentially. So this is kind of across all of Hertfordshire. So we're waiting for results of that, and it'll be really interesting to see if there is still a high food waste sort of contamination into that stream, or if, as you both mentioned, if actually people are sort of finding other ways to reduce their food waste, whether it's just by being more mindful about how they're consuming food, or if they've got sort of home, composting solutions. So we're really, looking forward to the results of that coming out to be able to inform what kind of campaigns we look at going forward, because yeah, we don't want to be spending time telling people to use their food bins. And as Diane's mentioned in the comments, actually, I've got it sorted. I'm using other methods, and it's not kind of, the reason I'm not putting my bin out is because it's just not full, because I'm dealing with it in other ways. So hopefully once we've got the results from that analysis, it will really help us inform helpful campaigns that we can kind of move forward with and help residents engage with the services that they need.
Thank you, Kate. I've just seen Diane's comments in the chat. We also have a repair shop library of things, so that helps people to repurpose and reuse and rent something instead of buying it, which is a wonderful way to have less stuff. I'm not a fan of stuff. I keep ending up with stuff. I don't like it. And there's also, I don't have a food waste bin. Compost, have hens, a wormery. And that's reminded me that I'm seriously considering having a wormery in the gardens. It's probably the first time my husband's heard about it. Yeah, look at your face. So yes, I've seen what wormeries can do, and I'm very excited about the prospect. So yeah, not yet though, darling. You can wait for your arm to heal. Anyway, thank you so much. And if that is all questions and comments, and just on time at 8:30, I shall move on to mixed recycling facilities presentation 3. And it has been almost a year since the glorious and lovely, wonderful Duncan Jones has graced my screen. And it is absolutely wonderful to have you back. And I was thoroughly delighted when I saw that it was you doing the presentation. And I knew it was going to be glorious. Anyway, now that I've set you up massively, if you would like to start your presentation, Mr. Duncan Jones from Timberpack Pierce to present. Thank you.
Okay. Oh, someone's turning it up for me, are they? Brilliant. Thank you very much. Thank you, Chair, for that introduction. We were looking forward to seeing you the other week down at Timberback Pierce, but we're happy to have you later in the year, along with any other colleagues that might want to come and visit us. So I'm going to give you a very quick history on who Timberback Pierce is. Some of you on the call will have prior knowledge of a company called Pierce Recycling. This is the new version of that company, which is now entered into a joint venture with Edgar Timberpack UK. So next slide, please. So if we go back 15, 20 years, Edgar, one of the world's biggest wood recyclers, an Austrian company started in the 1950s. We're taking about 25,000 tons of wood from our facility in St. Albans. They were approached in the early 2020s by a third party who were in essence looking to buy them out. As a matter of courtesy, the Pierce family informed Edgar that their supply may be moving to a third party. And Edgar responded by making a counter offer. And in 2023, a joint venture was created, which turned out to be Timberpack Pierce. So we're based in St. Albans. We have both a materials recovery facility. Often you hear the term materials recycling facility. MRFs don't do any recycling, they do recovery. They prep it they turn mixed incoming materials into single stream outgoing materials ready for the recycling process. And we have a MRF which is capable in its two halves of about 140, 150,000 tons input a year. In addition to that, we also take in currently 50,000 tons of wood waste, which we then send up to Timberpack and Edgar, and I'll show you that at the end of the presentation. We are a 24/7, 365 operation, so we do operate every day of the year, including on Christmas days when people, certain customers and contractors can enter the site using our automatic weighbridge facility. So if you were looking at the camera on Christmas night last year, you would have seen wood coming in from the County Council's HWRCs. About 40% of their wood comes in between 6 p.m. and 6 a.m. 7 days a week. In terms of wood, Timberpack is an end destination. We're part of Edgar. There are 4 wood recycling facilities in the UK. Edgar owned 2 of them, so we represent 50% of the market. Next slide, please. So, recycling. The secret, I think, to our success, and one of the reasons I decided to leave local government after 30 years, including the last 16 in Hertfordshire, was the fact that I was going to be working for 2 family-owned companies. Pierce Recycling started trading as a business back in 1869, and the Edgar Group, Fritz Edgar, started trading as Edgar back in the 1950s. We have no shareholders. There's no traditional shareholders. So one of the advantages is that both companies have a very, very high research and development spend. And in terms of recycling, the last 3 or 4 years has seen a focus on optical sortation. So we've replaced many manual hands over the last 4 or 5 years, and we're probably up to about machines replacing about 30 odd people to date. You need to bear in mind that as a site we double shift, so we have a very early AM to afternoon shift and an afternoon to a PM shift, and then over the festive period, if we need to, we can put on a 3rd shift and be sorting 24 hours a day. But the mainstay of what we do is done by these optical sortation units. Now, if you go back 20 years, most MRFs employed a whole array of manual pickers. So a good manual picker at the start of their shift can do 30 to 40 picks a minute, depending on the material that they're dealing with, depending on the conditions, is it dry, is it wet, etc., etc. These optical sorters can do 2,500 picks a minute. The belts move at 4.5 to 5 meters a second, and they can be run 24 hours a day. They're based on recipes. So the image on the right is the control center for each one of the Pellinks, and we can basically program it to go after certain materials, either on a positive basis, i.e. picking out what we want, or on a negative basis, picking out what we don't want. And the key to our operation at St. Albans, and again, we're happy to run additional visits for anyone that wants to come and see it, is we now have 5 of these machines working in concert, each with a slightly different purpose within the picking process to target specific materials. And at the moment, this is being done without significant implementation of AI, which is the next stage where we want to get the machines actually working together and self-tuning themselves. So at the moment, if we take in a different form of dry mix recycling, so commercial DMR is a burgeoning sector. It has a distinct different composition compared to domestic DMR. We can implement what we call a new recipe, and the machine will work in a different way, but that is a manual adjustment. With the advent of AI being introduced into everything, we're looking at the next stage of computer control for these machines, where they'll work together and adjust themselves to automate the process. So next slide, please. So this is one of our Pellencs up close. You have 3 main component parts. You've got the high-speed conveyor, which introduces mixed materials into the Pellenc. You've got the detection box, which can sort based on visual, near-infrared, or ultimately AI, Internet of Things type sorting capability, and the output box where the sorted materials go. Next slide, please. So this is the same machine. We've taken the side away now, so you can see how this works in practice. So looking right to left, the materials will come in from the right. They'll go through the first stage there, which is basically a regulator to make sure the material is equally spread out, enter the detection box, and then it will go into the output, the collection box at the end here, and you'll see that bar sticking out of the middle. And don't worry, we've got a close-up picture later on, and that will then split the flow between 2 separate materials. And normally it's the material that you want positively going over into the furthest compartment, and everything going down into the nearer compartment before that goes on to the next stage in the sorting process. Next slide, please. So this is a screen grab from a video that we normally show when people visit the site. The 2 colors, the dotted lines, they represent 2 different types of material. And you need to imagine here is the detection box has been set up to positively pick the yellow material, and that can be anything. That can be fiber, that can be plastic, that can be metal, or even glass, although we treat glass slightly differently. So what happens here is the yellow material is then separated from that incoming mixed stream, and the remainder of that mixed stream then goes on for further sortation, which will be the next Pellenc, which will then take out one of the other remaining materials. If you do that 4 or 5 times, you end up with a bunch of separated materials at the end of the system. And as I say, these things can pick 2,500 picks a minute, far in excess of what a human picker could do, and they're, to be blunt, more reliable, and they don't get tired. Next slide, please. So this is inside the collection box here. This has come from 180 degrees the other way. So the material is now coming in from the left. Just on the left of that picture, you can see the side of the detection box. It's detected whatever material we've programmed as the yellow line there. That goes into a separate stream, and all the other materials follow the blue dotted line down into the first compartment. I must emphasize these pictures are taken from a test center, which is superbly clean. You run these things for a day inside a standard MRF, it never looks as clean, but it's for illustration purposes. It's to show you how it works. Next slide, please. So I won't go through this in detail, but this is our basic process. And the way to think about this is that on the left-hand side, the material comes in, it's been delivered in bulk from Buntingford Depot, it's loaded into our feed hopper. The first stage is what we call a pre-sort. We take out very clean films, large cardboard, or any obvious residual waste. Thankfully in Hertfordshire, that's generally very low. We then move to the glass breaker, which through breaking glass and gravity separates out about probably 98% of the glass, either into a fine stream or a large cullet stream, which then goes on for further sorting elsewhere on site. And then we're into our series of Pellencs, where we've got Pellencs 1, 2, 3, and 5. Number 4 is on a separate line on the other side of the facility. And what you're doing is each pelling is taking a target material and then sending the remainder on to the next part of the process. And ultimately, it's the green boxes that we're interested in. So by taking that mixed material, we end up with clean glass, clean films, clean cardboard, clean fiber, clean plastics, and clean steel and aluminium cans. And if you come down to the site, I'll be able to walk you around and show you how that works in practice. Next slide, please. I mentioned earlier that one of the reasons I came across was the evidence from the two halves of the company that have a very high research and development spend. One of the projects we're currently working on is something called Project Aluminium. So as a MRF, I have to test everything that comes in. I also have to test everything I send out. And I know in my mixed bottles, and I send out about 15,000 tons of mixed bottles per annum, separated from our client authorities. We know about 2% of that is aluminium, which for whatever reason, it could be stuck to a bottle, or there could be another reason why it's ending up in the plastic stream. It's not being separated by the machines that are supposed to do the job. Now, in terms of the plastic end destination, 2% aluminium is far within tolerance. So there's no issue from their perspective, and they separate it out and they get the value. But if you add that up across a course of a year, it's potentially a lot of money. So over the course of the summer, we will be installing brand new eddy current and electromagnetic separators to further improve our capture of aluminium and steel cans. Next slide, please. So what do we take in? So the table on the left is our current local authority inputs. 1 to 8 are contracted. Rutland and Bedford are coming in via a company called Panda Recycling. Panda Recycling lost their Lincolnshire MRF to a bad fire back in October. And one of the good things about the MRF sector is we are very good at rallying around when there's a significant issue with a competitor's MRF, because we know it could have been us that we're having a problem. To be blunt, we don't do it for free, and there's a profit opportunity in that, but it helps us increase our throughput. The table on the right is our outputs. So that's what we send to market. So you can see the biggest number is mixed glass, followed by cardboard, paper, plastic bottles, steel cans, aluminium cans, and other plastics. It is industrial process, so we don't recycle, or technically we don't recover 100% of what's put in. It's an attritional industrial process, so we do have a process residue that's made up of two parts. It's the residual waste that's already in the load before we start processing, and that small fraction that we lose as part of the sorting process. Those numbers are very round. They're never that neat, but for illustrative purposes, you can see that we currently take in just shy of 86,000 tons, and our total recyclable outputs are about 79,000 tons. So it gives a plant efficiency of about 92%, which is pretty good when it comes to the number of MRFs there is across the UK, of which there's currently about 97. Next slide, please. As this is East Herts and North Herts, I thought you'd be particularly interested in this. So I've selected just a couple of stats just to highlight what I think is something that, as a former local government officer, head of service, and the partnership manager of Hertfordshire, you need to be proud of in East Herts and North Herts. So starting with the red graphs at the top, this is the percentage of fibre that we have measured on a monthly basis in your recycling, your mixed recycling that you deliver to us. And you'll recall that one of your policy decisions was to divert your fibre into a separate collection, which we don't receive, that goes to Edwards Recycling in London. So you launched back in August, and you can see, particularly in East Herts, a very significant drop in the amount of fibre that remained within your DMR stream. Still a good drop in North Herts, not as pronounced because you've got other operational considerations there, which means you're still commingling some of your fibre, I believe, from your trade waste service. But you can see both are on a significant downward trend. So tick number one, the policy objective, largely on the way to being met. The middle graphs, the blue graphs, that's your contamination. So again, we measure this as part of MRF Code of Practice testing. All MRFs have to do this. How they choose to present the data is down to them, but this is how we do it at Timberpack Pierce. And again, you can see, despite even with the spike around the November-December period for East Herts, for both authorities, you're averaging in sort of the 5 to 6% range. Given that you are the first two authorities in Hertfordshire to take the 3 weekly challenge on and to deliver that, I think you should be immensely impressed with that. That is a fantastic result that shows fundamentally your contamination levels haven't spiked or gone up as a result of what you've done. Prior to the change, there was a lot of industry chatter about 3 weekly in general, and one of the concerns was you'll end up with a lot of residual waste in your recycling bins because people won't comply with the new service. Well, these stats prove the veracity of the decision that you took, so you need to be pleased with that. Then finally, the graphs on the bottom in green, this is the percentage of soft plastics that we measure in when we do that testing. So for every 75 tons that comes in, we have to take a sample. And then we break that down according to a national standard and guidance. And you can see, especially in North Herts, who, to be fair, have been doing it for longer, there's a nice upward trend in the amount of soft plastics we're finding in your dry recycling. So again, your third tick in terms of underlining the excellence of the decisions you took and the fact that between the authority and your contractor, you have certainly delivered. Next slide, please. So very, very quickly about the wood. I know that wasn't the original point of the presentation, but I wanted you to be aware of the company that you're now invested in terms of a contract. So on the wood side of the business, we are part of Edgar Timber Pack. We have 6 sites across the UK. Timber Pack Pierce is the Southern Timber Pack site. We have then sites in Leeds in Yorkshire, Washington in the northeast, and Bellshill just outside of Glasgow. Collectively, those 4 sites have a mission to achieve, which is 400,000 tonnes of waste wood collected per annum. And as I say, the Timber Pack site in St Albans, we're currently doing about 50,000 tonnes with aspirations to move that to 75,000 tonnes over the next 2 or 3 years. All of that material is sent up to our chipboard production facilities in Hexham in Northumbria and Barony in Scotland. Then along with virgin fibre that's grown in Edgar forests as a crop and sawdust, we make a cake mix, we add resin and heat press it to turn out chipboard, which is then sold to the commercial sector. So for example, Wren Kitchens, which I'm sure you all know of, they will bring offcuts direct up to us at Hexham, and then the lorries will take back finished product from manufacturing of their kitchen furniture. Moving on, next slide, please. Next slide, please.
Duncan, I've seen the slides change twice. I don't know if it's maybe coming up
okay.
on screen.
It's maybe okay.
I can see the 2 sites, Hexham and Barony there.
Okay, so that slide, those are our 2 UK facilities. So Hexham was the first investment outside of Austria made by Edgar back in the 1990s. I've caught up now. And Barony was in the 1980s, and then in the 1990s we built Barony on a greenfield site. If this was just down the road, Chair, this is one of the places I would be taking you to. It's an absolutely fantastic site. The technology is state of the art, but what it does, it shows you what a private business can do when it doesn't have to be beholden to shareholders in the traditional sense. Their research and development spends are fantastically high, but what it means for waste wood in the UK, as a company, we can provide a guaranteed 100% UK end destination. And by the way, our backup for Hexham is a whole other chipboard plant also in the UK. It's just a shame it's up in Scotland and Northumbria, although they are very nice places to visit. Next slide, please. We're coming to a close now. This is just underlines the value of taking out a joint venture with Edgar. They have invested over the last 7 years almost £200 million in UK infrastructure, both in terms of maintenance and growth investments to increase the output of those 2 production facilities, and therefore by definition increase the demand for waste wood. Next slide, please. And to give you a sense of how big we are, Edgar has 22 plants in 11 countries around the world. We employ 11,000 people, and the 2 plants down on the bottom right, we currently have almost a 0.25% stake in. So technically you could say 24, but 22 wholly owned by the company. Next slide, please. Happy to take questions, Chair.
Thank you very much, Duncan. That was fantastic. Hey, it's up in Scotland. I'll take any excuse to up to Scotland, to be perfectly honest. I've already been up there several times. If I can fit a site visit and a hike into one trip up into Scotland, I'll take it. Right. Thank you so much. Do we have any questions for Duncan? I'll be honest with you, I'm not surprised there aren't any. That was highly informative. Yes, thank you so much. I was very sad to not be able to make the St Albans visit. Unfortunately, I was a bit poorly and had a bit of a flare-up, so I wasn't available to come. And I'm very much looking forward to the opportunity to come along again soon when we next get the chance to go as officers in the team.
Very welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I know everyone loves a site visit. It's like a school trip. It's great. Right. So anything further? I just want to point out all the talk about wood recycling and everything like that. I don't think we're going to be adding wood to our dry mix recycling bins anytime soon before anyone gets any ideas. So I can't even imagine I would incorporate that. So, right, if there are no further questions or comments from anybody, then I will look to draw.
Well, just a comment. I assume the wood, does that come from when you take the wood to the recycling and stick it in that bin? Is that where it goes?
If you're referring to the household waste recycling centres, yes. Yeah. We take in 20,000 tonnes from the county per annum. At the moment, we also then take in 30,000 tonnes of commercial wood from across the region.
Thank you, because I did always wonder where when you stuff it in those great big bins at the recycling centres that you go to, where it ended up. So now I know where its home is. Thank you.
There you go.
There we go. Now we know.
Now we know, yeah.
Right. In that case, if there's no further comments or questions from everybody, I'd just like to take the opportunity to thank everyone. Before we close, I just want to take this time to say thank you so much. Those presentations were strong, clear, grounded in real work, especially from our waste team. I'm a little bit biased. They in particular have delivered a huge amount this last year, so I'm incredibly proud of the work they've done, and so they should be too. I'm absolutely delighted to welcome Duncan back, and just briefly to our meeting, obviously, and to Luke's wonderful presentation from Biogen, which is always a fascinating site. This is our final meeting of the civic year, and it feels like a good point to recognise the effort behind the scenes. It includes our cabinet panel members, committee services, and our visiting panel members and councillors, and our regular public attendees. You all play a part in making these meetings work, and that matters. So with that said, I will draw this meeting to a close. Thank you very much, everybody.
Yeah,
thank you. I'm going to say thank you, Amy, as well, because I have to say, I think this evening it's really been informative, and again, I'd lend my thanks to the presentations we've had. Very good to see. Thank you. Thanks for organising it.
Thank you so much, Councillor Strong.
Chair, sorry to interrupt.
Oh, you can tell me I've missed something. What have I missed?
We've still got the information note from the policy and strategy team to come, because we had the change in agenda order. So sorry.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. Oh my God, I can't believe I just did that.
No problem. Yeah, no, we've just got items 5 and 6.
Forget everything I said. Forget everything I said. Following on the agenda, the information note. Item number 5. That'll teach me for not double checking it. Council activity update and action tracker. I'm going to Ollie Hollingsworth to present. Thank you, guys. Can't believe I did that.
Thank you, Chair.
Sorry.
No problem. We'll keep it nice and brief. So yeah, I'm just going to take you through the information note briefly. So the information note usually covers the topic for the meeting, which obviously we've heard from already, so I won't go over that. There's no new actions on the tracker, but we will review this following the meeting and ahead of the next meeting, which will obviously be in the new civic year. Some updates on council activity. The third round of Solar Together has closed. We're near the end of this round now, and so installations will be wrapping up. We had 650 residents registering interest and 73 installations of solar and 63 of batteries. A reminder for the Hertfordshire County Council's flood kit pilot scheme remains open for applications, and this is to support communities to become more resilient and prepared for future flooding through flood kits and plans. Also, as part of our work on retrofit, the council is working with Hertfordshire Climate Change and Sustainability Partnership to support the delivery of a retrofit strategy. The Your Tree, Our Future initiative has been extremely popular in North Herts this year, with just under 15,000 trees claimed and planted across the district. Next up, the local nature recovery strategy. So these are spatial strategies which agree priorities for nature recovery and propose new actions to achieve those different priorities. The LNRS, so the Local Nature Recovery Strategy for Hertfordshire, has now been published and is available to view on the County Council website. Just a sort of plug for residents, they can do their part to help with these strategies by doing things in their garden, like planting bee-friendly wildflowers, avoiding things like astroturf, and agreeing with your neighbour to build a hedgehog fence, sort of with holes in there, if that's something you're interested in. Lastly, before I hand over to Amber, just an update on the air quality management areas on Stevenage Road and Paynes Park in Hitchin. So they are no longer air quality management areas, and this has been after 5 years of the air quality remaining at well below national limits. So monitoring will continue in these areas, but the improvements have been from sort of local sustainability trends, including vehicle technology having a shift to lower and sort of zero emission transport. So that's really positive. And I'm going to pass over to Amber for the next bits.
Thank you, Ellie. As she said, I'll keep it brief as well. So first up, an update on the public sector decarbonisation scheme. So the project to decarbonise our leisure centres is progressing really well. And in fact, Royston Leisure Centre is completely finished now, which is really great news. And North Herts and Royston are estimated to be finished by the summer. Design work for decarbonisation of Hitchin Town Hall, North Herts Museum and the Learner Pool at North Herts Leisure Centre is also continuing. Next up, we have published a report on council greenhouse gas emissions on our website, which you can give a read. This covers the progress in reducing our council emissions and summarises progress district-wide. Next up, we have a bee event with our green space contractors, John O'Connor. They're holding a community bee event in Baldock in April, which is to expand the bee corridor in North Herts. More information on the bee corridor and the event can be found on our website and the Climate Hive. Another event as well, the council are partnering with Letchworth Garden City Heritage Foundation to host a community energy event at Broadway Cinema in Letchworth in June. The event will include a showing of the film Power Station, followed by a Q&A session with the co-director of the film. So this is on the 10th of June. Tickets available on the Broadway Cinema website, and you can look out for more information on our social media. I'm just going to hand over to my colleague Daisy now for some more updates.
Thank you. So we're continuing to work on delivering the actions from our sustainability strategy. So I'm just going to run through the most recent updates from the last few months. So HVO, which is hydro-treated vegetable oil use in our refuse vehicles, has saved 368 tonnes of carbon between May and November 2025. And electric vehicles are now in operation for the waste collection service for future further reductions in carbon. Our action to train staff on climate change issues has progressed, with 81% of staff having completed our sustainability e-learning module, and 11 new officers have become certified as carbon literate in the last few months, which is a 2-day training session that's facilitated by Hertfordshire County Council. We're continuing to deliver the government-funded Warm Homes Local Grant Scheme, which supports homes in fuel poverty through solar panels, insulation and clean heating. For year one, we will deliver installations at 12 homes, with a further 10 surveyed for delivery in the second year. The North Herts Council app has gone live and currently has over 17,000 downloads, so that's helping residents improve their recycling rates. We now have a process in place to record and monitor the impacts of extreme weather events on our services. Wild areas, including a wild meadow, are now in place at Wilbury Hills Cemetery. And finally, an electric vehicle salary sacrifice scheme has been launched for staff at the council to invest in lower emission vehicles, and that will reduce the emissions associated with staff commuting. So that's all from us. Thank you, Chair. I'll hand back.
Thank you so much. Just off the back a couple of those updates, I've been inspired to get some more pollinator flowers in my garden. So I've been overhauling the garden quite a bit, getting rid of quite a lot of grass, replacing it with creeping thyme, and a whole bunch of other bits and pieces, trying to make it a bit more bee friendly, because it's just been a lot of grass for a very, very long time. So I felt it was time for a big change. Does anyone have any comments or questions off the back of that presentation? Thank you. No, I think we're all good. Right. Is that everything? I'm looking at Robbie.
Just the public participation item, but I think that was just a note that that's already taken place on.
Yeah, we already did that at the end of each presentation, didn't we? And we've got no further questions. So, well, in that case, as it is the last meeting of the civic year, I just want to say a big thank you to everybody who has been a big part of this. And clearly, Councillor Strong is one of my biggest fans. So thank you so much, everybody, for being here and to the end as well. You're all a big part of this one way or another, and I really appreciate everybody attending and being part of it also. And thank you very much, and good night.
Night, everyone. Bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Thank you.
Same.
Good night.
Bye.
Thanks.